such a sweet person out there to confirm that you can hear my volume, you can hear my voice. Is that true? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, hi, Lindsay. Hello, Natasha. Hi, Mia. You got your delivery, Mia? Ah, such sweetness. I'm so glad to see all of you awake at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Here to be. Hello, hi. Wonderful, Mia. Good to hear. I'm just preheating my oven, so excuse me a moment. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and turn down my Leanne LaHavas, but if you haven't checked her out yet, please do. Such a beautiful voice and such sweet connection for this Saturday morning. It is a Saturday morning after fall harvest. It is a Saturday morning after a beautiful new moon. And it's a Saturday morning that we get to awake together and enjoy each other's company. I am so engaged with this idea that we get to make a choice every day with how we interact with the world, the human and the more than human world. And by that I mean the food that we get to enjoy, the plants that the food comes from. And that's one of the reasons that I want to make sure that we are having this experience together today. My name is Jocelyn Jackson. I am one of the co-founders of People's Kitchen Collective, along with Sita Kuratomi Bomek and Sakeb Kaval. And I am just so grateful that for over a decade, we've been able to provide a hot and nutritious breakfast for folks at the Life is Living Festival each year at DeFremery Park, which is also Little Bobby Hutton Park in West Oakland. And we do that breakfast very much in honor and to really continue the legacy of the Black Panther Party's Service to the People programs. There is a commitment there to serve people body and soul. And we take that very personally. And we want to give that legacy so much breath of life as we navigate the ways that we are engaging things in our circle, which include food and art and social justice. So that's how we bring ourselves to each meal. That's how we bring ourselves to the relationship with the land that grants us these ingredients, the relationship to the people that grow, the people that seed, the people that provide the transportation, the people that are in direct relationship with this experience of us being in relationship to food and to the history, the politic, the culture, the purpose of what food is in our lives and why it's such a really important part of being in this movement of movements in this moment. So I want to acknowledge also that part of this experience. Any movement for social justice includes our ancestors. And I've just named the legacy of the Black Panther Party as an organization that really tended to the people and provided over 60 service to the people programs in honor of that reality. Mutual aid isn't something that happens in emergencies, it's a lifestyle. It's a forever stance if we're going to really embrace collective liberation. And honoring the ancestors is such a big part of that. And you'll see back here, I have a picture of my great-grandma Lovey and the cookbooks of many cooks that have come before me with an ethic toward caretaking community, caretaking one another, nourishing the social justice movements of every era. And that's also part of the purpose and intention of this experience. I invite all of you, when you're cooking, take that moment. Name your ancestors that are there with you, that are caretaking you, that are teaching you. And those ancestors are, like I said, human, and they're also more than human. We're cooking this sweet potato biscuit today. Knowing very intimately where our food comes from is such a privilege. If we know the farmer, it's such a great joy to be able to visit that land, for example. Even if we are having that relationship directly to the land, taking a moment with the ingredient and really just sharing that respect, sharing that love and care for these ingredients, for these relations, for these ancestors that are providing so much love to us, so much care to us, and giving us the energy to keep going in each day, which is often filled with challenge as well as beauty. Take that moment too and give that respect and honor. It makes every meal taste better, I guarantee it, when you actually have that moment and really spend time with that connection that you can have with the food that you're cooking. And so it really is that. The ancestors, the food ancestors, the human ancestors, even the thought and energetic ancestors. Honoring them, bringing them into the kitchen with you, making them a part of how you experience home cooking, cooking for your family, for your community. Start there, every time. And I would love for there to be a moment also to really give a chance for people to get excited about the fact that we're going to have 2 guests today. We are going to have the beautiful and wonderful and powerful Mia Birdsong. Mia Birdsong is an author, an activist, a facilitator, and really a present-day manifestation of how we can be in the world on purpose. Our other guest is going to be Sarai Bordeaux, and Sarai is an OG when it comes to People's Kitchen Collective. She's been there since virtually day one, and it's really sweet to be able to talk to her from a powerful place right now in the PKC experience of embarking on a project called Earthseed that is based on partly the source material of the Parables series written by Octavia Butler. Sarai is in Eureka right now, and so we get to be and embrace the geography and the presence of a powerful part of the journey that is represented in this book that we'll talk a little bit more about later. And Sarai is also an author, a poet, very much ingrained into this work of being a teacher for the young ones, being an educator in a way that really brings in the whole person into that process. And so really looking forward to speaking with Mia and Sarai during this time together today. And Sarai just got here, so I'm very excited. Hi, Sarai. I would love to also just talk about what we're doing today. Like I said, we've done the free breakfast at Life is Living for several years, and we have gone virtual last year and this year because of the pandemic. And it feels so important for us to still engage in ways that are nourishing, even though we are online. So some of you are cooking along, some of you have the recipe. I think maybe even Natasha can drop the link for the recipe in the comments. Hello, Joy. Joy was our biscuit baker to this year, and I'll share more about that later too. It is a sweetness to be able to share this recipe, which has been in place in the menu for the free breakfast program in the park for the last several years. It's a recipe that is near to my heart because it does interact with this ingredient, the sweet potato, that I've often been in love with because of sweet potato pie, but we've made it into this biscuit form, and it is really a great moment right now to be able to say that in honor of our program at 11 o'clock, which is going to be via Oye, and I believe Natasha, our sweet administrative and project manager, can put the link in for our 11 o'clock program that will be with the Life is Living format on their platform. You can register and take a look at the conversation that's going to be there between Erica Huggins and Mila Terry Kuhn. And this is a conversation between a Black Panther Party alum who was the director of the Oakland School and a young 10-year-old activist who is totally growing into the energy of what it is to be a part of these movements. And this moment of exchange intergenerationally is so beautiful. And it's so sweet that one of the points of connection for them is that they're both vegan. So today, it's happening. We're doing vegan biscuits for the first time. So you have a recipe for the non-vegan version, which is awesome. Follow that one. I'm going to follow the one for the vegan biscuit because that's the one that Joy baked and we're providing to our guests today in honor of that choice. That is a very political and engaged choice to choose to have a vegan diet for the sake of many reasons, and many of them are about our ongoing survival and thriving on this earth. And let's get to the ingredients. I am going to show you before Mia joins us. Every ingredient matters, like I said, and this one matters so much. This is our flour. We have a cup and a half of flour, of all-purpose flour, and about a quarter cup of wheat flour. I always love to put some wheat into any a recipe to enrich it a bit more. And in this case, I'm totally doing a commercial, y'all. This is the beautiful flour of Maine Win, Farmer May. And if you are able to find May online and grab yourself some of the flour that May puts her heart and soul into, please do that. It is so delicious, and there is something really special about knowing your farmer, like I said, and May is local to California and growing wheat there. So we have those flours here to be the base of our biscuit. We also have combination of leavening agents. Oh my gosh, when I was a kid I did a science fair project on leavening and I haven't been the same since. Please get the leavening right. It's the baking soda and the baking powder that are in here, and I also have that teaspoon of salt. We also have our brown sugar for just a bit of sweetness, and also it creates a caramelizing action in there. So for the chemistry, it's so important to have that salt and that sweet going on. And then we have our sweet potato that has been roasted. We are big believers in roasting over boiling for a couple different reasons. Roasting gives us so much more flavor, and it actually reduces the amount of moisture that you're going to get from the sweet potato. And it's important in the notes in the recipe, you'll see there's a real need to do a draining of the liquid. If you have roast, you know, when you roast, there's often a little bit of liquid that comes from the sweet potato. Be sure to drain all of that off so you don't have a soupy dough. So it's really important to tend to that little piece too. In here is our vegan yogurt. And it is the one, I'm not going to name drop, but it is the one that is made from cashew. And it's so rich and creamy, and a beautiful replacement for whole milk yogurt. And these are all our things for the ingredients except for one. Hold on one moment. Last year I forgot this one until the very last minute, but this is our butter. And I will name drop on this one because it's a phenomenal thing. It is the Miyoko's vegan butter that's also cashew based and has some coconut in it as well. But the texture is just wonderful for creating that flakiness that you want in pie crust and biscuits. So I recommend this one if you're doing the vegan version of this recipe. And it is also important for us to have all the good equipment. We're going to definitely need our spatula to do our mixing. We're going to need our rolling pin for getting that flatness and just the right height of a biscuit, and our pastry brush in order to get that very important last brush of butter on the top of the biscuit so it browns just slightly and just keeps it nice and crispy on the outside while you have softness on the inside. And a mixing bowl for you in order to bring everything together. Be prepared with your hand towel because we're going to get nice and dirty, which also feels like a very important part of cooking. I am going to now ask that Mia joins us as we put everything together. And Mia has the final product, so she'll be able to see if we can do this right with the live. All right, I think I gave Mia permission to join us. Hey, Mia! I'm so glad to see you.
And I'm just gonna say, Mercury retrograde is in full effect. My internet has been going in and out, so we'll see what we can do.
Thank you for naming that. That's a real moment in the world right now. It's so true. Mia, welcome to the PKCIG Live.
You.
You're
I'm
such a
so glad
sweetheart.
I'm joining you in your kitchen, and you are joining me in my bed.
Yes!
I'm in my bed. I still have my scarf on, propped up on my pillows. I have biscuits here next to me. I mean, it's everything. Honey,
This is the
tea,
life.
my butter. Yeah. Can I show everybody what these look like?
You sure can. I'd love to do the sneak peek.
Oh my goodness. First of all, y'all, look at heart-shaped biscuits.
That's what I forgot. This is your serious piece of equipment that you need. That heart-shaped biscuit cutter.
That's everything.
It tastes different, right? If it's shaped like a heart, it tastes different.
Absolutely.
It tastes better. That's what I'm saying.
All right,
I love that. Say again, hon.
I'm unapologetically going to be about to eat this biscuit while you talk to me. So
that's the intention. And I just want to point that out at the jump. Mia Birdsong is living her best life. And biscuits in bed. And one of the things that makes Mia stand out is the fact that you are also, can we call you an apiarist?
Sure, that sounds fancy. I say I'm a beekeeper, but yes.
You're a beekeeper.
Sure.
And so beekeeper in the backyard and cultivating so many things. And this is some of your homemade honey. And I'm saying that a lot today.
People often, because it's, you know, being like, beekeeping is really fucking cool. I shouldn't swear, there are children here. Beekeeping is very cool. So often my friends will say, introduce me and like say I'm a beekeeper and that I make honey. And I just want to be very clear. I steal honey.
There we go.
Is make the honey.
There you go.
Take it. And I take care of them, like to be, you know, I'm not a jerk about it, but my bees make the honey. This is from last year because I haven't harvested this year because I have a new hive. Look at this.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love that you make that distinction. You are a steward. You are a steward of a natural occurrence, and being in relationship with the bees is a very intimate one.
Totally. One of the things that I love about, because I also have chickens, right? Like the chickens, they're my chickens. They don't eat unless I feed them. They don't have water, and you know, I have to clean. You know, like you take care of chickens, like you take care of other livestock or pets, right? The bees, they feed themselves. I'm just basically trying desperately to make them, like, keep them healthy and make them stay with me. If they don't like what I'm doing, they will leave. They're like, we don't know her.
They have agency.
We don't need, exactly. So it's a very different relationship with bees than it is from like other livestock or pets. And I really appreciate that they are still wild creatures. I mean, you know, I bought the hive from somebody who creates hives that are like gentle and mite resistant, but they maintain a kind of wildness. And I love that I get to interact with that.
Oh, that is such a sweetness. Thank you for saying it just that way.
I always had a fingerful of honey, which was by itself delicious, but this.
This is the best unboxing I've seen. And I want to shout out the fact that Joy baked these and Laurel delivered these, and Sita put the nectarine butter in there with it, because you have to try the nectarine butter.
I know.
In the jar. That's from Matsumoto Farms, those nectarines.
So Matsumoto peaches and nectarines, first of all, are like the best on the planet. And and there's cardamom in here from Diaspora. I mean, this is like, my family thinks they're going to get some of these biscuits and jam. I'm not.
That's not the case.
But that's going to happen. I mean, my daughter already took one because she answered the door when Laurel came.
Oh, that's too funny.
He was like, I know, I'm just going to smell this right now.
That's such a big part of it, isn't it? There is such a sweetness to the smell of food that transforms you even before you take a bite. And I'm so glad you're embracing that part too.
And I feel like the combination of peach and cardamom is amazing. I want to put this on some ice cream. I mean, mostly I just want to sit here with a spoon and just eat the whole thing.
That's it.
So clearly we have to try. I have to try some with just this on it. So we're gonna
absolutely.
Do that. All right, here we go.
Oh, this is such sweetness.
Life is Living was I think my first introduction to People's Kitchen Collective.
Oh wow!
And my kids were like 2 and 7, which is 9-10 years ago. Yeah, they were babies, maybe 3 and 8. Anyway, they were little, and I went to Life is Living by myself.
Yeah.
You know, like being a Black mama out in the world often is a very like overwhelming. You can feel very, very conspicuous. I remember just like coming and sitting down at one of the tables, which are always one of the things I love that you all do is you pay attention to aesthetic, because you recognize that like beauty, right, is a birthright that we have, especially when we're about to eat. And having our food, you know, that these are heart-shaped biscuits mean something, right? It reminds you of love, right? And you all had this beautiful tables. I remember there were these jars that had beans in them. And I sat down and like someone now, as a volunteer, right? Like, and I've volunteered now and I know what goes behind y'all's volunteering. Someone came and like checked in on us and welcomed us. And it was like such a relief to be there, like, you know, wrangling my children and to be seen and taken care of. And I feel like the best experiences that we have with food are kind of like welcoming, right? They are a way in like a place for us to like ground, because I mean, this is what y'all do, right? You talk about how you're nourishing our spirits and nourishing our bodies at the same time. And I just love that piece, and y'all's recognition. My Libra rising really appreciates your aesthetic, the way you pay attention to aesthetic, and then of course everything. Like, I continue to be blown away by how y'all make food, and now I've done this with you for hundreds of people, and it is delicious. Because sometimes you go to like some like fancy catered business and they bring food out and it tastes like garbage because they're making it in mass quantity and they don't know how to do that. But y'all, and I'm convinced it is because of the ancestral and present day love that like, you know, hundreds of years of love just goes like that. Meals that you all prepare and that we get to cook together.
Exactly.
It is just such a powerful thing.
I think that's so true. There's something about having that whole lineage of experience, right? Your face. Look at your face.
No one in my house is getting any of this.
None of them. And I really want to make sure that I say this out loud, that many of the words that you just shared are in here. They're in this book that you wrote, and it's a book that, you know, thank you for including us in it. But it's a book that really feels important for us to acknowledge is at the core of how we show up for one another.
Yeah.
How we can really be in this movement of movements right now, how we can be present in a time of global pandemic right now.
Yep.
And be in a place beyond hope, beyond, you know, beyond surviving, and in this place of building the world that we want to actually live in right now, right? Like, that's so important.
One of the things I like to say is that we practice the future, like we get to the future by practicing now. And I feel like one of the many reasons that I included you all is because when I go to a PKC event, I feel like I'm stepping into the future, right? In which we're also reclaiming a past, right? Because this is just like how we used to be. But it is a reminder of what we have let go of in many ways, and the hopeful possibility of reclaiming that stuff so that we can have that feeling of connection to land, of connection to each other, of connection to all of the creatures, right? That like help create the meals that we eat. I mean, it's part of the reason I love bees so much is because they're so vital. It's a reminder of how history and land and love and nourishment are essential. For just like be whole ass human beings. And that experience that I have when I go to a PKC event or meal is like one of like just deep welcoming, deep belonging, remembering, and this like casting forward into the future that we all deserve.
Well, honey, thank you for putting it just that way. Needed your transmission this morning, Mia. Needed it.
Here for it. I'm here for it. It's going.
You know what? I'm putting the dry ingredients together. I got my flours, my baking soda, baking powder, salt, brown sugar, all together. And now we're about to get into that sweet potato puree. Mix that all.
So, because you know this, I'm sure. Why, when we bake, do we mix all the dry things and the wet things together separately and then combine them?
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. It's a really important moment. And I think many people have run into what happens if you don't. It tends to be a log if they are prepared separately. So if you put wet in with flour, for example, before you get all the other leavening agents in, they won't mix throughout. They'll stick in one place, for example, you know? You have to have the dry ingredients fully incorporated before you put wet in it, because once you put wet, things stick in place. So that's the magic.
Now I know. I mean, I always follow
the magic.
I figure there's a reason for it, but
that is it. What is the last thing what is the next thing you're going to bake, I should say?
The next thing I'm going to bake? Well, that's a good question. I did a lot of bread, like many of us, during the pandemic. And then I bought all these. And then we also started watching baking shows, and I bought lots of baking things. I have yet to use my tart pan. That feels like a good one. You know, holidays are beginning. You know, you know what I used to make these bomb oatmeal walnut chocolate chip cookies that were like mostly. Like, I felt like I could give them to my children in the morning for breakfast and not feel like a bad parent, right?
Breakfast
like,
cookies.
Not a lot of sugar.
I got a breakfast cookie right here, hun.
Yeah. Oat in them. And they're so good. Like, there's not a lot of flour either. They're delicious. So yeah. I feel like I might need to bake a bunch of those, around the holidays this year, just like to give thanks to folks.
Oh, I love that. And that's a big part of it too. Make more, share, make more, share. And I want to just brag on you for the brownies you made for my birthday last year too.
Oh,
that was inspired, I think, by Adrienne Marie Brown recipe. And just love on every recipe with your personality. Because putting cardamom in brownies, revelation.
So these brownies, and this is part of what I love about this brownies, is that I use like brownie box, like a mix of, you know, some kind of brownie mix. Yeah. And then I just added a bunch of stuff to it. There's turmeric, there's cardamom, salt. You can put lavender, and they're like, you know, they have all these like antioxidants in them. And then chocolate also is an antioxidant. It's delicious. I put walnuts, sometimes pecans in them, and they're just, oh my goodness, they're so good. And then I didn't have people like making a brownie thing because somebody else had figured that out. I just added to it. And I think like that's such a good thing to do if you're not like, if you feel a little nervous or not totally adept as a baker, is to take a like quality pre-made situation, whether it's pancakes, cookies, or cake or brownies, and then like zhuzh it up, like add your stuff to it.
That's it. It is very much it. And that's a sweet invitation to bringing home cooking into your life. This is, you've seen these probably before, the Black Power ABCs. Yeah. And this one is H for home cooking. Or that is something I want to be reclaimed, because there's so much sometimes intimidation around it, right? It's like, oh, from scratch is hard. Yeah. I want us all to know that there's a moment in our recent history where society at large was convinced that home cooking was hard by propaganda.
Totally.
Like, literally, it was a campaign.
Yes, and
so
it was like,
please reclaim. Please.
That's such a powerful point. And I think that one of the things, I think, if there's something you don't know how to make, like somebody you know knows how to make it. Like, yes, we can learn from watching cooking videos or from cooking, but learning from another person, like all of us, like do this with somebody, like get on, you know, FaceTime or whatever with somebody who knows how to cook something and have them show you how to do it, because there is such a, there's something you get from the conversation that happens when somebody's telling you something. Like so Can I tell you one more story? Do I have
Yes,
that?
I want your last story. Give it to me.
So on my dad's side, we're Jamaican, and for years I was trying to get my aunties to like tell me how to make stuff.
I remember you saying this.
Yes, and I finally got my aunt to tell me how to make oxtail, and oh y'all, when I make oxtail, the meal that I make, I'm convinced that at the moment that it's done, it is the best meal on the planet at that moment. So she was going to email me stuff, and she started to, and then like didn't for whatever reason. But instead I had a conversation with her, and she's telling me about how she makes her oxtail, how she makes her rice and peas. And in the conversation, she's giving me like the kinds of things she wouldn't have written down in the recipe. So I was able to like capture all of these like little moments and like little pieces of wisdom from her. Yeah. And she don't have no quantities for anything. I just, you know, I cook enough to be like, I can guess about stuff. I'm like more garlic than the recipe says, more onions than the recipe says, more whatever. But like being able to hear her talk about oxtail and the things that she does when she makes her rice and peas was such a like, you know, I got more than the recipe. I got her. I got her. I got my lineage through that. And it was just really amazing. So now I make that every year. I make that recipe.
And that's what you're transmitting to your little one. It's like there's the talking story. If you can, the recipe is the love note, and it's beautiful to stand in for real exchange. But when you can have that moment of, this is something I love, I've declared my love for it, and now I'm going to defend its existence through my lineage, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for making sure that we know that too. You are wonderful.
Biscuits. Thank you for existing, Jocelyn, you and the rest of the PKs.
I like existing with you in the world. That's what I'm saying.
Glad I get to be on the planet at the same time as you. It is such a gift.
That is it. Oh, honey, keep enjoying your bed biscuits.
I will.
I love you dearly. Have a beautiful day. Bye. Oh, I don't know if I can take that screen off, but let me try. Oh, there we go. Oh, sweet technology. I am so grateful for Mia. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing so many of the stories that are meaningful to this experience of food being something that is for the people, and how we each make that decision in our homes, in our communities, to make that happen. As I shared, I put all the dried ingredients here together. We put our puree together of sweet potato and yogurt. Yogurt is such a beautiful, you know, often you'll see buttermilk biscuits, you'll see sour cream biscuits. This is a yogurt biscuit, and the reason for that is because there's acid there. There's something in those additions that creates additional flakiness to your biscuit. The chemical reaction is so sweet to see in food and in cooking, and this is one of them. When we have those acids present, and it absolutely interacts with the fat of the butter, it's magic. So please tend to that real specific place of making sure your chemistry is happening in your oven by adding these ingredients in just the right way. I am adding our vegan butter to the flour. This is going to be the moment where we get to get dirty. So the flour is going to grab this butter and coat it, and we want that to happen. We want to basically coat each piece of butter individually, and you can do that with your hands or with your spatula. I'm doing it with a spatula right now, just to prevent a little bit of the mess, but embracing it in a moment. So you coat all the pieces of butter with the flour. I'm going to scrape this down a little bit so I don't miss any of the good stuff. Put this away, cleaning as we go. And then I am going to get my hands in here. And we're going to basically make sure that all the butter is pressed into the flour, making sort of a mixture that's often characterized as cornmeal kind of in its texture, because it makes it a little bit more, just a little bit more depth to it. All right. And you want that butter to be cold. That's a big part of this recipe also because of the chemistry of it all. If you have warm butter in this, it'll do something. It'll work. But when it's warm, it becomes, again, the texture is soupier. And when it's cold, you get this nice combination of crumble in here, which is what you want. And that way, when you mix in your wet ingredients, the incorporation is going to make it so that the chemistry that happens in the oven is going to be flakier, as opposed to if you have melted butter in here. So make sure you use that chilled butter. We're about to welcome Soraya in a couple minutes, but I want to get these all together before we do that. All right, let's do a close-up. I want you to see it, y'all. Okay, so this is the crumble that I'm talking about. That's what we want. If we had soft butter, it wouldn't turn out this way. So check it for this. Chill your butter. Now we're going to add in the puree of sweet potato and yogurt. And we're going to make that incorporation moment happen again. You see how it's coming together really nicely, but there's still some dry parts. You're going to go until all that flour is incorporated with the sweet potato. This is a relatively small biscuit recipe. More often than not, I am cooking for a crowd. And so there is really a version in the world of this recipe that is suited for making 1,000 biscuits. And it's even more impressive when you get to that moment. And you have about 4 or 5 people using the cookie cutters to cut out all the heart shapes of these biscuits and baking them off. Sheet pans and sheet pans of biscuits. I hope that each person in their life gets a chance to cook for a crowd of that kind, because it really does show us what this world requires when it comes to feeding the people. And if we can embrace that perception of our reality, it really does give us a chance to live into how we can be of service when feeding the people. And there are so many mutual aid projects in the world that tend to that. Right now, Eastlake United, which is on our webpage, there's a Panther resource page at peopleskitchencollective.com. And there's several sections, and one of them is mutual aid. And you'll see a link to Eastlake United, which is a food program for the people that cooks out of the Methodist Church by Lake Merritt every week. And you can find a way to volunteer there if you'd like. It's just starting where you can start to be of service. That feels so important. And that's one of the gateways if you'd like to explore doing that for your community. Now I have this beautiful dough. I'm going to do a sniff. Oh, it's so nice. There's just something about how the sweet potato evokes its sweetness, how the yogurt evokes its tartness, the combination happening right now, the chemistry that's happening right now. As soon as the baking powder and baking soda hits moisture, it starts activating. This is alive, y'all. It's so sweet to know that you can be a part of that process of transforming food into the version that can be of service in so many ways to our community. Get this out of the way. And now we have our dough out, and we're not going to mess with it a lot, but there are some theories here about baking biscuits, and we'll get into some of them. But a sweet potato biscuit is inherently different than a flaky usual buttermilk biscuit, for example. The sweet potato makes it more cakey in nature, and that's fine. But you can play with laminating, which is making layers on layers. And when you make layers on layers, the flakiness can happen from that process. But in general, people say, don't mess with your biscuit dough too much. You basically put it down, you press it down into the height that you need, and cut out your pieces, and then recombine the scraps and press again. Like I said, some people laminate, like folding over and pressing. We're going to do that once. There we go. A little bit more extra flour. And we're going to have Sarai join us. Sarai, can you join us in the room? I would love to see you in here. And I want to make sure I do this right. Sarai is going to ask for permission to join the live. And there we go. View requests and go live. Did it work? Did it work? Oh, I'm so excited.
Hold on, let me close this. Let me close this light and see if it's better.
Yes! Sarai!
Hey! Oh my gosh. Can I just say, I watched tons of food shows growing up, like on the Food Network or whatever. But if I had had like a Jocelyn and Mia Birdsong like show growing up, like the way I needed this in my life today, like you have no idea.
Sarai!
I'm so happy right now. Like,
that makes me happy, honey.
I'm also still in the bed. I mean, I have mascara and a necklace on, but I'm still in bed, to be honest.
Oh, good. That's the theme. Mia was also there right with you. That feels appropriate.
Yeah.
Come as you are. Come as you are, my dear. We're about to cook. You know, I'm really disappointed. I was telling you earlier, I'm disappointed I didn't get to cook for you today. But you've been here before with these biscuits. You know what they do. You know what they taste like. You have intimate knowledge
Yes.
of what the biscuit is doing.
Eating them and serving them. And I really appreciate like what y'all were talking about on the, like in terms of the service side and the, like, you know, like coming and putting all of that energy and like just general zhuzh, as Mia used the word, you know, serving and into volunteering. Like I thought that conversation was super, super like grounding too. I'm super happy you guys brought that up.
For sure. I really am. I'm grateful for that too, because it feels like a missing moment often when we're talking about how we move through our day. I want everyone to be able to embrace the specialness and the beauty of every plate that you create. Even if that plate is takeout food, even if it's like taking that moment of just repose and intention of this food came from the land. It's part of what will be my lived experience in the world. There's so much grace in that. There's so much possibility in that. And let's say thank you in that moment. Let's really orient ourselves to the land that it came from and the people that got it to us. And how it can be of service through our bodies into the world, you know?
Yeah. And because a lot of ways, like, our service has been taken forcefully from us. Like, our service has been, like, kind of devalued in a way and kind of pushed to a place of, like, non-liberatory action. Like, I also believe, like, that is sort of a reclamation, right? Like, doing that for yourself. Like, and doing that for other people, like, taking the time to take, like, your service back as a freedom. And I think that's one of the things that PKC has totally done. Like, serving at the meals and stuff and being a volunteer, like, that's why I kept showing up, girl. Like, y'all thought you were asking me. I was secretly waiting every time. Like, please, am I gonna get to volunteer? Like, these are serious things. These are serious things.
They are serious things. And I want you to speak to that because of what you recently published. Can you, I need to trust that your book is right beside you, that you have your poem in.
I don't.
I'm going to trust that that's the case.
I don't. I'm in flux, girl. Like, the different things are happening. I don't have the book with me. But
okay. Tell me what it is. Say the word, the title, everything.
The Patrice Lumumba anthology, Authors on Black Liberation, with Nomadic Press. Y'all can go check it out on Nomadic Press's Instagram. But I'm so lucky to have been so held, like in the beginning of the pandemic, by this writing group and by this group of people. We wrote together, we laughed together, there were some tears together, you know. And Tarita McKell, who has produced like a bunch of anthologies with students, you know, got partnership with Nomadic Press, and we all got to create a poem for this book. And during the time of a pandemic, like being able to sometimes also production feels stolen, right? Production feels like it's a have to or a must type of thing. But this anthology came through so organically. And the group of writers, Landon Smith, Tongo, Eisen Martin, like just like all the people, you know, and getting to be in that space was so like fulfilling and grounding. So I don't have it. Look, right before I got on, I was like, she's gonna ask me if I have it, and I don't.
But you have it here. You have it here. It's okay.
I have it here. Yeah. And the poem I wrote in it is called Clarity, and it's very short. And if you know me, like I am not short with words. Like I am not like.
But that's how this one came through.
But that's how it was when it came through. Like this poem.
And I want to say that it was when you were in Mississippi.
Yeah.
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 It's really important to know and acknowledge how we channel.
Yeah.
And how we can be vessels for that channeling when it comes to any one of our talents in the world. Like you are a talented writer, you're a talented educator, you're a talented person that knows how to be in the world in authentic and honest ways with integrity and with this goal of being as true as you possibly can, right?
Wow.
And so any of the ways that we can know that about ourselves and channel that, it's so crucial for us to be that when we're doing this work for social justice. Because it's not just, it's absolutely about organizing, and it's absolutely about the overt ways that we are in the world, but it's also about how we are as individuals. Yeah. And how that can be, this is the version that I want to be in this world that I'm building, right? Yeah. And also, it's so huge. And that's why I want to get into a place with you right now.
Okay, girl.
And I told you a little bit about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about parables.
Oh, okay.
The project that I know, right? Like I'm doing it. I'm doing it, Sarai. Let us talk about this. Hold on. Let me get my biscuits in there. Hold on, before I get carried away. Okay, so I'm going to get this biscuit in here. I want to tell one trick about the biscuits that I tell everybody before they start cutting. I have this heart-shaped cutter. I demand that everyone buy a heart-shaped cutter, buy, exchange for, barter for. When your biscuits are heart-shaped, when anything is heart-shaped in your life, you know that symbology is not trite. It's not goofy. It's not whatever. It is real when you know that you're eating something with love in it. And so when we can actually make that moment happen with these symbols in our lives, do it. Because that also can make your meal something that is treasured, something that is enlivening, something that is preparing you for the challenge and the beauty of life. And I dip that cookie cutter into flour, into flour. Every time before I cut, dip it into flour so that your cut doesn't get sticky and the dough will release. So that's why I dip it in flour each time between each cut. Wanted you all to know that. I am going to do a speed thing of this last couple biscuits so we can get them in the oven, make sure they're done before our time is up. But what I want to talk about, Sarai, is that we are grateful that one of the projects that PKC is doing in the next couple of years is called Earthseed, and it's based on this experience of survival, both through the pathway of the Black Panther Party and its survival programs, as well as Octavia Butler and her Parables series. They speak to survival in such very specific ways, and food is a part of both of those. Not on mistake. They are positioned at the heart of being in a world of organizing and movement doing. And so there's a moment in Parable of the Talents that I wanted to talk about. In Parable of the Talents, Lauren is the main character, right? And Lauren is experiencing something that is quite, it's beyond horrifying. which is that she is reintroduced to her brother Marcus. And in that, oh my gosh, I have to say hello to Mother Caval. She's on with us. Hello, hello, Mama Caval. I want to make sure that I say that Lauren is experiencing a post-apocalyptic world that is imminent as far as the timeline. It's in the 2020s, right? It's in the 2030s, in the 2040s. And her family experiences the explosiveness of a society falling apart. And they get separated. And they experience hardship upon hardship in their separation. And they find each other again through a really horrible mode of discovering, you know, what each person's experience has been since they've seen each other last. And they come together and go back to a home place that's been built called Acorn. And in that home place, what is one of the things, you know, that Lauren does for her brother to welcome him home? That's cooking. And specifically, they have this recipe for acorn bread. And talk about that exchange, that moment. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit and what meaning and power is.
Oh, okay, first of all the feels. Like, anybody that has read the parables, like, woo, like lifting Octavia Butler up as a genius and an ancestor, like that, many of us like hold super dear. My dad actually started listening to the audiobooks, and he's been like texting me like, this is happening and this is happening. I'm like, like, because you read them and it's an adventure, it's an experience, and it's an it's a relatable one. Like, even, okay, so back to the question you asked. And even in the first books, there was a situation where she had cooked for Keith, who was returning. And so those moments of strain, of palpable strain, they were not eased necessarily through the cooking, but they were like, it was possible to face the uneasiness through the cooking. It was possible to break down the moment and see like parts of beauty in a relationship, though very kind of torn at this point. Very just needing to be kind of tended to. The food helped to do that tending. And so I really think that Octavia Butler like used not only the cooking, but the food coming from the land as like, we might not have recourse. And even in finding and eating food, we might not have recourse because of the disparities that exist, like as we're trying to sustain and feed ourselves. But when we are able to eat, it's really important to slow down, and it's important to take a moment, and it's important to realize, like, going back to what I was saying before, sometimes we have to eat fast because we have to go to work, we have to get the like we have to do the like, or you're going to your family's house who you dread having a meal with because of the politics that might come up. But food is it's a personal recourse. It's our personal recourse. And so finding freedom in eating, and finding freedom in like sharing meals, like I really think is something purposeful that Octavia Butler like added to the story over and over, as they were eating by the beach, as they were eating together, the way they grew their crops together, the way they focused on the land. Food is really a recourse, you know.
It is. I want to follow up on that by saying, you know, in that moment, specifically in the kitchen, they have this warm acorn bread that they're eating. It's also a very big moment of healing justice. They have both been traumatized, right? Like traumatized in ways that are unthinkable, unknowable, unspeakable, but happen every day, not just in post-apocalyptic, right now. Yeah. We experience trauma in our lives, and one of the places of healing is those sense memories of calm and of nourishment and of, like you say, that reclaiming that comes from food. This is a moment before pain that they can return to and remember and reclaim in their healing process, right? And that feels so important. Like, what are those things in your life that you can go back to the place of less harm and reclaim what that feels like, what that tastes like, what that can be. So that as we are experiencing ongoing trauma, there's no such thing as an end to trauma in our society.
Right.
Because as Black and brown folks, it is lived experience daily.
Yeah.
So how do we give those moments to one another and to ourselves of reclamation, of reclamation of the moments in our lives that were filled with less harm and reducing harm because of it. Oh, that's so good, honey. Thank you for bringing that perspective to it.
Yeah, I think like
go ahead.
One more thing really quick. Like, because honestly, like this experience today has been so grounding. And it's like a remembering of a time getting to work with you guys. It's like a remembering of a time where I felt like I was able to take care of myself better. And that also like happened through food. So I just like want to name that like events like this and things like they're momentum building. And so like they cause people to find light in spaces that are not necessarily like bright. So I just want to like really name that and really show gratitude for the way that y'all keep showing up. Like, I'm gonna cry because like shit is rough. Excuse me. Yeah. Things are really rough. You know? And so like the ways that this is gonna like carry me throughout my day today, like I just want to name, like it's not just the biscuits, girl. Like it's not just the biscuit. It's not just the biscuits. So thank you.
It is all heart. It is all love. It is a silent but flavorful message of our survival, of our shared liberation. It's never just a biscuit. It really isn't. But I'm glad that it can be a manifestation, an embodiment of this care we have for one another.
Yeah.
We have 3 minutes left, and that makes me feel absolutely like time is weird and not okay. But it really is important for me to go ahead and share these with you. These are our biscuits, right? These are another talisman of our specific and complete intention to be on this earth and in this earth. It is really, really wonderful to be able to experience this moment with you, Sarai, because you are an OG to this experience that is so powerful for me of People's Kitchen Collective. And it really means a lot for me that we can continue this in about an hour at 11 o'clock. And Natasha, if you're able, I would love to put that link. My apologies for not being prepared ahead of time with that. This link to our event called Feeding the Revolution. It's a conversation between Erica Huggins and Mila Terry-Kuhn. And these two voices, these two spirits, these two souls get to talk to us about what it is that we need to resource ourselves with, to learn from one another, what is required for us to have this experience of collective liberation and survival today, as well as in the future. I am so grateful for you, Sarai. Thank you. Thank you. And to all the PKC crew that helped, to all the guests that were here, to the Black Panther Party, to Octavia Butler, to Life is Living and You Speaks, everyone, thank you so much for making all these moments that we get to share together possible. I love you, my dear.
I love you too. Thank you so much for
having me. The best. What's that?
Thank you so much for having me on here.
Yes.
I don't know.
Hopefully, I'll see you at 11, okay?
Yeah, you sure will.
Okay, perfect. Bye, honey.
Bye. Let's see if I can. Is it that one?
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Have a beautiful day today. If we don't see you at 11 o'clock, I'm so glad you were able to share time with us. Talk about biscuits and how it's just not a biscuit. It's all about the life and love that we have for one another, how we can heal this experience of being in a traumatizing world and reclaiming the joy that's inherent to our existence as human beings on this planet. Let's do all that together. I will see you at 11, and thank you, thank you, thank you.